Okay. Do you have a few favorite producers that you like to work with? I mean, you said you knew
Oh,
him a long time,
definitely.
so
Like in mainstream music, or
just in general, yeah.
um, certainly Pharrell Williams is one of my favorite producers. Missy Elliott. Um, I would love to work with R. Kelly. I would love to Timbaland, Justin Timberlake. Um, And also, even here in Atlanta, I would love to work with Jermaine Dupri. I've met him, but haven't worked with him. And Brian Michael Cox, they're responsible for a lot of huge artists, especially in the early 2000s. Um, yeah, those are the people I can think of off the top of my head.
So is it relatively speaking, is it relatively easy to reach out to these super producers in the area because you're in Atlanta? Like you said, you met Jermaine Dupri. Like, how easy or harder would it be to work with him or to get something like that going?
I think it's very easy to run into people here, especially producers, and meet them. Because everybody's out on the music scene. But to really sit down and create, that's somewhat a challenge, just because most producers, their their central focus is what's in demand. They're producing for whatever artists are about to drop albums that are relative to whatever label is pushing the specific artist. However, because they're always producing, you certainly can, I would say, on downtimes in between like sessions of big projects they're working on. It's just somewhat a task. It can be, because their production is equivalent to their income. So the priority of your project may kind of fall to the wayside, but that doesn't mean it won't ever happen.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously you've been singing a long time. How have
hmm
you evolved your sound from when you first started to now?
Wow. I began to just figure out who I was by way of really, really, really paying attention to what I like and my strengths and weaknesses, I would say, as it pertains to me as a singer. I think there's, with singers specifically, there's certain things that attract one to a voice. And from singing so much, I've attempted to sing, I think, all types of songs by all types of artists. And I think honing my sound came by way of really, really identifying some of my biggest influences that are singers. Um, in some way pulling from each person and gelling it together to create my own sound. So school helped with that also a lot, because it forced me to um, find my voice, because you do a lot of singing, you do a lot of learning, and you begin to really, really find your sound and cultivate it.
Okay. Um, so when did you know that you could actually be a musician? It's a pretty competitive thing.
hmm
I guess it's not for everybody. Some people have a dream and then they never achieve that dream. So when did you know for sure that this was something you wanted to do and that you could do it?
That defining moment, I think, came when I was a freshman or sophomore in high school, and very, very simple story, but it was a turning point for me. I was at the barbershop before I had grew my hair out and all that. I used to get, close cuts and all that jazz. And I remember sitting and talking to my barber, and I kept looking on the wall in the barbershop, and there was like this poster. It was a new artist that was on the Def Jam that Russell Simmons at that time was really pushing. And it was a rap artist, and so I was looking at the poster, and I was like, "Wow, like that's really pretty cool." And then I remember looking down, and it was like the guy that was in the poster was sitting in the chair, and so I was like, "Wait, am I tripping?" But then I was like, as my barber was at the same person, he was like, "Yeah, he just got signed, yada yada." And I talked to him shortly thereafter, and he was kind of telling me his journey, and I don't know, for whatever reason, it just clicked for me. It made sense that this is something very tangible and achievable. Um, and yeah, I just remember from that moment, I was like, hey, I knew that this is what I could do, but I'm going to do this. So,
Were your parents always supportive in that journey? I mean, they were musicians, so it makes
hmm
sense that they kind of would be. But were they always supportive? Were they?
yeah, they were definitely supportive. Of course, I think the only challenges, I guess, because my parents are rooted like in Christian and gospel music,
Uh huh.
being that I didn't want to necessarily take that route. That was always kind of like, oh, okay, well, we support you, but perhaps especially on my dad's end, it was seen as me kind of continuing in the footprints that he already had made. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but I want to deviate and still create my own lane. But for the most part, they were always supportive, just because, yeah, they're music professionals as well.
So are they even more so supportive now since things have been going well for you as of late?
Oh yeah, it's always funny because a lot of times I think as people you have to just do something and prove people wrong, and then when they see you actually doing it, it's like, oh wow, well he's doing it. So they definitely have, especially from me moving here, staying here on my own, and really just making things happen. There's a greater level of respect that they have and appreciation for me kind of just standing on my own too as an artist.
That's awesome. So kind of in the same vein of that question, how would you define success for you? Like, would that be like just getting a record deal? Would that be just being able to continue to do this full time for a long time and not have to work a side job? Would that be like selling a million records or something? Like, how would you define success for you?
Most certainly traveling and getting to perform, forever. That I think that is the ultimate goal. Being able to have a catalog of music where you can just tour in any country, any place, and experiencing just that pandemonium of people knowing your music. That's always been an ultimate goal. And, I think within that, that's kind of broad to some degree because I think that could entail, selling millions of records. Um, I think making a lot of albums, having a large fan base, but I just love the capacity of touring. That's where you really are sharing what you've created to people that want to listen to it.
Hmm.
And I think being able to do that for the rest of my life, like that's perfection to me. So,
So are you in the studio? Is that where you do most of your creation, or is this you do a lot of stuff on your laptop? What's your setup like?
I do a lot of it just at my keyboard that I'm actually sitting at right now. I literally sit here a lot, and I just play and come up with ideas. And I'm kind of old fashioned to some degree. I write them down in my composition book,
Hmm.
and I'll go to my producer's place and lay down verses or hooks or everything. But yeah, my approach is very old fashioned. I love being inspired by something and sitting down at the piano and taking out my pen or pencil and writing it. So
So was that how you came up for your suitcase record?
yeah, it was definitely one of those from, I think, just observing. I think that was like fresh out of college. And I was just observing life and like, okay, this is cool. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do that. I think after you graduate, you go to the world. And that second month after graduation, it's like, okay, well, let me really, really figure things out. And I just began to write a story about what that's like, literally packing up life, moving to a whole nother city in hopes of achieving your dreams. So that's where the whole ideal of places to be, things to see, and that whole vibe came from because I always try to write from a perspective that's very truthful or honest about what I'm experiencing,
Hmm.
but I try to also tailor it to where it can be the something that another person can relate to.
Yeah, I actually really related to that song because I picked up and moved out here to St. Louis.
Hmm.
When you go into college, you pick up and move again, and I'm in the
Yeah.
process of potentially moving in the future
Okay.
again. So yeah, I think a lot of people definitely can identify with that song.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
And
Yeah.
I mean, if all your records are coming from that place of where people should be able to identify with them, I'm sure more of your records on the Suitcase EP will do the same.
Yeah. That is the hope.
So you also did some background singing for a lot of people too. Can you tell us about that?